Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So this is the Honor Magic VS. This is Honor's second generation foldable. I actually made a video on this device like 2 months ago, but that video I couldn't talk about a lot of stuff until the software became ready. The software is ready now and this thing is launching globally at MWC. Will go on sale in Europe and also probably throughout most of Asia. And this is huge for me because this phone will finally end the global monopoly that Samsung has had on the foldable industry for the past 2 years. I'm talking about large foldables because if you guys know my work, you would know that to this day I am still a believer of foldables, but only when it's giving me like a large tablet-like screen. And up until now, the Galaxy Z Fold series is the only game in town. Well, not anymore. Finally, Samsung will have competition, and this is good because I think it will finally put pressure on Samsung to step up its game. Because in my opinion, Samsung has been cruising a little bit with its foldable hardware. I say this because, for example, the Galaxy Z Fold 4, this is 4 generations in now. The phone still cannot fold entirely flat. There's still a gap right here in the corner when I fold. When you unfold the phone, there's still a very harsh crease in the middle that you can feel with your finger and also see immediately anytime you tilt the phone a little bit to the sides. And I know that Samsung can fix these things because Chinese brands have been able to fix it since like 2020. And if we look at something like a Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, which is significantly lighter and thinner than the Galaxy Z Fold 4, it really makes Samsung's hardware look a little bit outdated. And other reviewers agree. Like I spoke to Mr. Mobile a couple weeks ago, and we both share the feelings that Samsung can definitely push for better hardware on its foldable, but it didn't feel the need to because they had no competition. And then of course there are now rumors that say the Galaxy Z Fold 5 will finally fix all those issues I just mentioned. It's probably going to be thinner, lighter, folds completely flat, and the crease will be a lot less noticeable. So you see why competition is good. When a brand has no competition, it gets a little bit complacent. But then when the brands feel competition, when they see other brands doing something just as good, if not better, or at a lower price, they will feel the need to match it. And that's what's going to happen with the foldable scene. With the Honor Magic VS, the Galaxy Z Fold 4, and then the upcoming Google Pixel Fold. And I have a feeling Xiaomi or Oppo or OnePlus will eventually launch a foldable outside of China. So when that happens, everyone will have to step up the game to compete and give you better products. And that's a win for us consumers. So finally, back to the Honor Magic VS. I've been using this thing as my daily driver for the past 8 or 9 days now. And I think this strikes the perfect balance between the awesome hardware of Chinese foldables and the awesome software of the Galaxy Z Fold series. But anyway, going back to what I said earlier, I think in terms of pure hardware, in terms of in-hand feel, something like a Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 is way better than the Galaxy Z Fold 4. But where the Galaxy Z Fold 4 still wins is it has more polished software, particularly integration with Google's ecosystem. Because the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 only sells in China, it runs on Xiaomi's China software. You can run Google apps on that phone fine, but a lot of apps just aren't optimized. For example, Gboard cannot show a split keyboard on the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, which is a big problem for me because when you unfold the phone, you have a huge screen and the keyboard cannot split, so it's very hard to type. The second issue I have with the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 and also other Chinese foldables like the Vivo X Fold is that when you're running YouTube and you want a split screen, you can only split vertically, not horizontally. And for an app like YouTube, it doesn't make sense to split vertically. And up until like 10 days ago, only Samsung Z Fold series allow me to split YouTube horizontally. Well, good news, the Honor Magic VS also allows you to split YouTube horizontally as well as split the Gboard when it's unfolded. So these are benefits that come when you have a software that is released for an international audience with full integration with Google. I believe this phone, when it was announced in China, launched with Android 12L, but now it is running on Android 13, but it still brings all the benefits of Android 12L. It's just a little bit more optimized for the shifting form factors of a foldable, more so than a Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 or a Vivo X Fold. So the Honor Magic VS finally gives us software that's polished for a Western audience like the Galaxy Z Fold 4. But the Honor Magic VS also brings all the awesome hardware that Chinese foldables have offered that are still missing in Samsung's device. The screen doesn't have as deep a crease as on the Z Fold 4, although to be fair, the crease here is still a little bit deeper than what we see in the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 or the Vivo X Fold. but it's definitely better than the Galaxy Z Fold 4 screens. And of course, the phone folds completely flat, unlike the Z Fold 4. Because the device is just a little bit thinner, it makes for a more comfortable in-hand feel than the Galaxy Z Fold 4. The Honor Magic VS measures only 12.9 millimeters in thickness, which compared to the Galaxy Z Fold 4, at its thickest point right here, it's almost 16 millimeter. When you put these two foldables side by side, you can see the difference. Now, the Honor Magic VS is relatively light for a foldable at 267 grams, but it is still not the lightest foldable around. That would go to the Oppo Find N2 or the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2. And the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2's 11 millimeter thickness is still thinner than the Honor Magic VS. But then in return, the Honor Magic VS packs a larger battery, a 5000 mAh cell, which up until now is the largest battery in a foldable. There is another foldable coming soon I can't talk about yet that will match the battery size here. So do you see how fun it is when brands compete? Like now everyone's going to try to one up the other. So maybe the next version of the Honor device or the next foldable from Xiaomi will have a 5100 mAh cell. Like they're just trying to top each other. So this battery here can be fast charged at 66 watt. The charging brick is included with the package. Let's look at the rest of the hardware. So you have a 7.9-inch OLED display when you unfold it, and the screen looks great. Other than the fact the crease, like I said, is a little bit more noticeable than in other Chinese foldables. But then one advantage of that is that the hinge can stay in place mid-fold, which the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 cannot. When you fold up the device, you have a very easy to use 6.45-inch 21:9 aspect ratio. This is a screen that feels just like a normal slab phone, so it's very comfortable to use when it's folded. Unlike, again, the Galaxy Z Fold series, when it's folded, it's just a little bit too cramped to type comfortably. I've been using the Honor Magic VS throughout the last week as I travel around Europe, and it's very useful to have a device that when I'm on a crowded train in Paris, I can just use in folded form because I only have like one hand. But then when I'm out in the open space, I can unfold to look at things a little bit easier. I can navigate on Google Maps and see more on the map, or I can run two apps side by side. Honor's multitasking system is very robust. You just have a slide over menu that you pull, and then from there, you can pull almost any app and put it immediately into the right or left side to split it. And then, as I said, you can actually switch to horizontal split screen mode with most apps, which you cannot do on a lot of other Chinese foldables. Okay, it's getting really cold right now. It's like 7 degrees Celsius, 40 something degrees Fahrenheit, so I need to step inside. Oh, it is much warmer in here. So the reason I have to film outside, in the cold or in the rain or at night a lot is because I don't have a dedicated studio. And trust me, it is a lot tougher to film out in the wild, in the real world, instead of having a comfortable studio. So if you appreciate the work that I put into my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. It will help me a lot. So anyway, back to the Honor Magic VS. So we have a triple camera system with a main camera using a Sony IMX800 sensor. This sensor was introduced in May 2022, so still relatively new. Now this is not Sony's like tip-top sensor. That would be the IMX989, but we have to remember that when we're evaluating cameras of a foldable, we can't compare it against the absolute top slab phone. It would not be fair because foldables have a lot more moving parts. It needs to be thinner, so you can't put as premium a camera system into the hardware. The IMX800 is still a very capable sensor with a relatively large 1/1.49-inch image sensor. This is relatively large for a foldable phone. It's larger than the image sensor used in the Galaxy Z Fold 4 or in the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2. And I think overall performance with the main camera is really good. Honor's software processing is also very intelligent, so even if I'm shooting against harsh backlight, you'll notice that in the viewfinder it looks blown out, but after you capture the shot, you look at the image, the software fixes it immediately. Low light performance is also really good, although I think Honor dials up brightness a little bit too much. In the middle, it's an 8 megapixel telephoto zoom lens of a 3x optical zoom length. This is an ideal focal length for portraits, and I think during the day you can get some really good 3x zoom shots. You can also digitally zoom up to 30 times, but I would stick to 10 times zoom or below. Anything above 10 times, images start getting really soft. Down here you have a 50 megapixel ultrawide camera, and this is a really good ultrawide camera for a foldable phone. 50 megapixel allows the ultrawide to pixel bin. So once you pixel bin, you can get more image information into each pixel, and that's crucial for an ultra-wide image. because generally with ultra-wide cameras, details can be a little bit soft if you don't have enough pixels. That's why 8 megapixel ultra-wide cameras are generally pretty weak. And around the front, you have two selfie cameras, 16 megapixel, one on the outside screen, one on the main screen. Videography, it's where it lags behind a little bit. I think stabilization could be better. I definitely think there's better stabilization in the Z Fold 4 when it comes to shooting videos. Right here, you see that as I'm filming and walking, there's a little bit of that bobbing motion because stabilization is struggling to keep up with my footsteps. But overall though, I would say the camera system here is good for a foldable phone. Again, we cannot compare this camera system to a slab flagship like the Honor Magic 6 Pro or the Xiaomi 13 Pro. But if I compare the camera system here to the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 or the Galaxy Z Fold 4, Honor holds up very well and wins in some key areas. Now there is one more gripe with the camera experience, and that has to do with software. So as I mentioned earlier, even though the hinge is sturdy and can stay in place at any angle, the app doesn't take advantage of that. Check it out. When the camera app looks like this. When I fold the phone, the viewfinder doesn't shift to the top half, which is what happens with every other foldable phone. The reason viewfinder shifts is so you can put the foldable phone on a table like this and have yourself like a tripod that you can film yourself, do time-lapse videos without needing to prop the phone against something. You can technically do this with the Honor Magic VS, but because the viewfinder, it's now weirdly bent like this, and the shutter button is right in the middle of the folding point, so it's very hard to tap. You can still tap it, it takes like 5 or 6 tries. The good news is this is just a software shortcoming that I'm pretty sure Honor will fix, because this is pretty clearly not supposed to be like this. I think Honor will fix this via the next update or so. Once they fix this, then the overall software performance is highly polished, more polished than any other Chinese foldable. Now overall performance with the Honor Magic VS is quite good. Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 is still a capable chip, and I've been gaming on this quite a bit with a large screen without any issues. Thermals, everything has been fine. I haven't experienced any app crashes. You also have a pretty good stereo speaker system. So now we're at max volume. And you see, YouTube is optimized when I fold, the video shifts to the top half. So the camera app needs to do that. Battery life of the Honor Magic VS has been pretty good, but not amazing. I'm a heavy user, so even though there's a 5,000 mAh cell here, when I'm using a large screen a lot, this phone still can barely make it through a 13, 14 hour day. So I was using this in Paris recently, on the screen a lot because I'm navigating, I'm like typing, doing work on it and stuff. And I left the house at 9 a.m. and by 11 p.m. at night, that's 14 hours later, the battery had drained down to like 6%. And anytime the battery dips below 10%, you are nervous. I would say this phone, for my heavy usage, can last me about 14 and a half hours, which is still good, but not like amazing. So overall, I think the Honor Magic VS is a very polished foldable with great hardware and also surprisingly good software. I think it holds up very well against the Galaxy Z Fold 4. Now, unfortunately, I don't know the price of the Honor Magic VS at the time of me making this video. When I get pricing, I will put it in the video below. I'm pretty sure in Europe, it's going to be priced relatively high, probably close enough to the Galaxy Z Fold 4 that it's going to be like a decision for consumers. But in China, this thing is quite affordable, and I'm pretty sure when this launches in Hong Kong, in Malaysia, in Thailand, it'll be quite a bit cheaper than what Samsung asked from the Galaxy Z Fold 4. So I'm really hoping going forward, Honor is going to start the trend of Chinese brands releasing foldables globally, and I think it is coming. And when that happens, it's going to be fun. So anyway, that's about it for this video on the Honor Magic VS. A very important product because it officially ends the monopoly that Samsung has on the large foldable space. So thanks to Honor for finally giving Samsung some competition. Yeah, that's about it for this video. I have a lot more content coming up, so please stay tuned and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please. Thanks for watching.